You are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer. The priestess.
Welcome to the Woman Arising podcast, hosted by Kathy Hartenstein and Zephy Devi, where we elevate and celebrate inspiring women on the rise. In this podcast, we talk to women from all walks of life about their soul's journey, the obstacles they overcame, and how they embody their feminine power. We hope to elevate women's place in the world, showcase their contributions, and provide inspiration for all women to rise to their fullest potential. Today, our guest is Jaya Lakshmi, renowned singer-songwriter who is known for her authentic and deep devotional spirit, as well as playing an important part in establishing Kirtan and mantra music in the West. From a young age, Lakshmi was drawn to sacred music and stories, and she has brought this love to life in her concert performances. Her angelic voice and loving presence opens the heart in a way that brings the listener into a state of harmony and bliss. She has produced 19 different types of albums, 3 with the band Lost at Last and 9 with Ananda. She learned how to produce her own electronica music and in 2010 coined the word Kirtanika, kirtan and mantra sung live over electronic dance music. She tours regularly around the world. She is also a dedicated yogi and established her annual Goddess Mantras Vocal Empowerment and Yoga Retreat for Women with the aim to help women integrate goddess teachings of the Vedas into their practice and lifestyle. She also holds co-ed Empower Your Voice through mantra and yoga retreats in Hawaii, Sedona, Oregon, and other destination spots. Welcome, Lakshmi. It is our honor to have you with us today. We are excited to hear about your journey and how you've helped women expand through the work you do, through your music and your yoga.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you, Zephy and Kathy. Really honored to be here.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you. I know you for a few years, and me and you had a lot of deep connections. Maybe not many times, but we had deep connections and deep conversations. And as women, we really understand each other. So just because I know you a little bit, but we never really talked about women arising, I wanted you to tell me how you felt when you heard the word women arising and what kind of images that brought up for you and what kind of emotions or feelings brought up for you.
Well, I feel that it's a great movement that's been underway. Well, really, it's been always underway since the beginning of time. But in our modern day world, it's, a recent phenomenon. I feel that women have really been really working hard to step into their power and reclaim their power in so many realms and so many levels. So I love Woman Arising because it's very like women everywhere all over the world feel invited and can relate to that. It's just simple and powerful, and the message is so clear that it's Woman Arising, and it feels like such a powerful global universal movement underway.
Thank you. That's exactly how we feel because I think women need it more than ever now. Just everything that's going on in the world, we need it more than ever to create this community and to really take care of each other and, rise together in a lot of ways. So thank you for the answer.
Yeah, I think it's really important, the idea that everybody's welcome. I really liked that. And that it's almost a call to action of, you know, go ahead, step into your power, connect with us, join this tribe of energy that's trying to elevate women all over the world. And that is that global community, something's very important to us and something that we're trying to cultivate. I really love learning about your bio and all the interesting and many things you've done and how deeply you've connected to Kirtan and I'm really curious about your journey and how you got to where you are today. What was it that, kind of shaped you as you grew up, and how did you connect to this?
Well, let's say ever since I was a child, I knew I was very spiritual. I knew that. And I was very imaginative and I was always a dreamer. And I always loved like fantasy and science fiction. I grew up in suburban New Jersey. And, in my middle school and my high school, I had access to a lot of mind altering substances. And I started that as a young age, but really not for entertainment. I really had a very shamanic spirit, and I already knew that. So when I would take those substances, I would have very different experiences than a lot of what my classmates were having. And things would be revealed to me at a very young age, like 13, 14, 15, doing um, psychedelic mushrooms. And I felt like there were spirits speaking to me. There's a lot of Native American energy coming through that I didn't even understand. I read the Hopi prophecy when I was 15. Yeah, so I was just very opened up and expanded at a young age to the global situation and to tuning into um, what was happening on our planet, like the pollution and the degradation of our Mother Earth. And um, one of the commercials I remember when I was growing up was in the 70s when there were that Native American was crying, you see the trash in the river, and that Native American man has a tear coming down his eye. That was so powerful, and it just was like, oh, so I deeply connected to the mother, very, very early, Mother Earth. And then, in college, I had invited the Hare Krishna, uh people, the devotees who lived in town, and we used to invite them over to our house so they would cook for us. And we would invite all these people and we would chant. And so that's really how I got more and more turned on to the Hare Krishna movement, which I loved. I felt like it's past life stuff. I just connected with, oh, right, we get to praise God and we we sing and we worship these beautiful deities and we worship the god of love and the goddess of love, and they're so beautiful. It's so, expansive, like the consciousness, like Krishna consciousness to me, and it's based on the Vedas and Vedic um, philosophy and approach to consciousness. So I was really into that, especially the Radha and Krishna story because it's all like divine romance and it's all flowery. So, and there's like flowers and it was so beautiful that so that's why I was attracted to that. And so I started to learn the bhajans and the songs and the kirtans, and, I was already a musician. My mom was a piano teacher and a jazz musician, and so I learned a lot from her growing up. Of course, I rebelled against her, and I became, like, a folk musician, a hippie folk musician, loved music from the '60s, and so, I was already doing that. So then I just integrated the 2. I integrated the kirtan style singing from India and the bhajans and all that beautiful, deep devotional bhakti worship into my music. So I started writing songs in English that were combined with the mantra. And this was in the early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. Um, but then I've always had this really intense calling, like, my whole life. I knew I was a really really into the goddess and just feminine power, and probably if you looked at my astrology chart, you'd see, I have Moon in the 1st house and Neptune and Scorpio and all that, in Western astrology. So there's a lot of, like, divine mother, like, priestess kinda energy coming through me, and so I couldn't really relate so much to the, like, patriarchal structures in the Hare Krishna movement, and it pushed me away. Like, I just turned me off after a while, and I'm also, like, very rebellious. So, I was like, "No, no, 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 we gotta create something new out of this." Honoring the teachings and honoring the nectar of what's there, but we need something new that integrates the divine feminine in a more powerful way, and so then I carry that with me all the time, and, of course, as a woman growing up in the society, I have my own programming, and it's challenging, you know, to come into our power and understand how to operate and act in the world now, but, basically, it just gets more and more powerful in me, I think, as I get older, like, that sense of, like, coming into my power, you know? I'm like, "Wow," it just kinda keeps going on and on. And, that's kinda I think that would answer the question. There's probably a lot of details I could share, but that's the general gist of it.
Yeah. I love that sense of, like, all the layers of our feminine power, that it's not, we arrive at some place, right? But that it's this journey of unfolding for ourselves, and the discovery at such a young age of this sort of universe beyond yourself that you felt compelled to follow, and that music was this very powerful vehicle for you. I think a lot of people can relate to that because I think music is very transcendental in a lot of ways, and especially that kirtan music. And just kind of having that confidence at that young age to know yourself and to pursue that, in that way, that's not always easy for us to do. I'd love to hear a little bit about what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome and those sort of shaping and defining moments that came with that, about how you really were able to overcome the things that may have been barriers to really knowing yourself.
I love that question. Well, I could start from an incident way back in my childhood that, as we do this kind of work, through our consciousness and healing trauma in our lives, it's kind of a moment. I was 6 years old, and it's just a silly incident, right? But it carried through my life this theme. So this boy in my class, like, I sat down and he pulled the chair out from under me and I fell really hard and I hurt my sacrum. And I didn't tell the teacher because I thought, like, I was cool, or like, I'm not going to tell, you know. And then the next day I did it to him. And then he ran to the teacher and told her and said, "She did this to me and I'm a," and blah, blah. And I was like, "I can't believe that." So, like, from a young age, I saw this injustice. And the fact that it was a boy, I don't know if that matters, but, it programmed me in a way. I was like, "Wow, life is really unfair, and boys somehow can get their way and they get listened to." You know? Not that if I had gone to the teacher, and explained the situation, he probably would have gotten into trouble. But that was just my some scar from other lives. I suppose, that imprint from maybe other lives or many lives, that, "Oh, life's unfair, and I'm a woman, so I'm not gonna get listened to, and I have to fight a little bit." There's like it's this injustice. So I had that from a young age, and I would have been a little bit more of an activist, I suppose, in my high school years, but I turned into more of a mystic
Mhm.
and just exploring mystical realms. Uh, but I think the biggest challenge for me, well, working in the matrix of my parents was also challenging because they're totally mainstream.
Mm.
Uh, they weren't like so conservative. They were pretty open-minded and kind, loving people, but they were in the mainstream matrix, so they would judge me a lot because I was going off into this super hippie, bohemian, like, mystical stuff. They had no idea. They had no understanding of who I was or who I was becoming, and so I really didn't receive support that way. And then on a lot of the psychedelic journeys I was taking, I felt like I really could have used some guidance from like the local shaman or, you know, in in one reality, I would have been like definitely ushered over to the shaman by my parents to say, "You take care of this girl because we have no idea what's going on with her, but she definitely has this shamanic thing, and I think you need to take her as a, whatever, a guide and, be her mentor." So I never got that, and I think a lot of us probably are in a similar situation growing up in this weird modern world where we're so disconnected, and our parents are so different from us, whole other different generation and
Mhm.
different societies. So that was one of the big challenges for me was trying to find my power, my truth, like my identity in the midst of all of this realms and matrix of things that I knew was just kind of like an illusion. I knew it already was, but I had to make my way through that. I wrote a lot of poetry. And then, of course, the other major challenge in my life was relationships with men, of course. I mean, always giving my power away. That's always the theme. That was my theme because I'm such a romantic, I'm such a mystic, and I will dive 100,000% into some probably very unsafe, not very smart relationship just because I'm attracted to the mysticism of it and the romance of it. Like, wow, like we could be like Radha and Krishna, or maybe we have this epic mission we're gonna go on, like in some great novel, like big fantasy romantic novel or something. So I got myself in trouble a lot in that way. And I've been single for 4 years, and I just turned 59. And I've never felt more free in my life. Uh, I finally got that peace that I had been looking for in the other my whole life, looking for that man, looking for that perfect relationship, looking for that whatever, security, the love, the adventure, that partner. And I'm finally in that place now where I feel fully, fully whole in myself and so happy to be single. And I feel like finally got there. But the challenge is relationship in that way because sure it's always nice to have a partner, and I just don't know what that looks like right now because I'm getting more fully in my power. And I think that's one of the big challenges with our relationships is how do we go into this relationship and merge with each other in love, and then maintain our separate identity and our individuality and our individual dharma or whatever. So those were the main challenges. And then I raised 2 children, so I have a 34-year-old and a 30-year-old daughter. I have 2 daughters. And that was rocky. So that was I'm a mom, and I learned so much, and it was hard, and it was harsh, a lot of it. Uh, so, yeah, nothing like being a parent, to just I don't know, just get your ass kicked over and over and over, and then have challenging relationships, and then have your heart just wrung out, and just so much of that. So that has shaped me deeply. But my girls are both doing very well right now, and we made it through all of that with hardly any support from fathers. And, somehow we made it. Um, and I just want to say thank you to my mom and my dad because they did help me. They helped me with my younger daughter, you know, and they did a
Oh,
good job. So, yeah.
thank you for sharing all of that because I think it's really interesting because you really describe as women all of the different ways in which we have to kind of find ourselves and find our power, whether it's for ourselves, like you're saying you've done at all these different moments in your life, and especially right now as a mother, right? That can be a really strong role for people. And then in relationship with men and romance and love or another partner, or another, whatever that is. But I think that that is kind of the whole picture. And going back to what you were saying about these layers of discovering ourselves and knowing ourselves, that sometimes all of those things help strengthen that power, even though we're also trying to navigate it a lot of the time. So I think that those are really interesting components of that journey. In that relationship, in putting ourselves out in the world, as women, right? You're a mother as well of 2 women, and the sort of patriarchy that exists out there, and especially when you're as connected to the divine feminine and sort of wanting to walk that path. Were there ever any instances that you struggle with that, or do you see those obstacles out in the society that, kind of make that challenging?
As a musician and a singer, you know, I love the role models. There are so many role models we have as powerful women musicians, and I think they are some of the best. And and also like maybe there's all kinds of role models we have as women. Women in politics or in public speaking or authors or whatever. There's so many examples of women working their way through the system, and being a musician and a singer also carries that too, because even though it's an area where women can rise to the top, they can rise. I mean, if you look at Taylor Swift, I'm completely in awe of what's happening with her. I'm just like, you know, it's an incredible phenomenon because I mean, I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie, but I watch these things, and she's empowering young girls, like millions and millions of young women around the world. And I know I don't follow her lyrics that closely, but I think they're in general, they're pretty empowering. And anyway, I love that. So music is a way I feel that women can have a lot of effect, a lot of influence without having to navigate the patriarchal, uh, oppressive factors. Whereas in politics, I know it's pretty rough in politics. Uh, that's definitely been a tight man's world. And anyway, I'm happy to see the rise of women politicians. That's very inspiring to me, to follow their stories. But in music, uh, I feel like I've come across that because I am so devotional, and I have that feminine nature of devotion. So that's been challenging to me. I love devotion, and when you especially, for example, when you're in the Hare Krishna movement, you the idea is to emanate the energy and the psyche of Radha, who actually becomes the human. She's representing the human soul in relation to God or in relation to the divine. So it's really all just metaphorical. So it's this teaching that as human souls, we learn to be in love with the divine, and we learn how to devote ourselves to the divine guidance and the divine energy and the divine plan. And we learn how to surrender into that. So it's a fine line when you put that matrix over into our material plane. It's a little tricky because you're this person who is in this feminine mode of surrender and like, oh, and you're so devoted, like people who fall into cults, or they become devoted and then they give their power away. So I just see that a lot. And in music, when I was in my band Lost at Last, I was with 2 men. I was flanked by 2 men, Om and Prio, and I was this like feminine, energy in the band where I would just channel these mantras. And um but it was a big energy because we played at a lot of festivals. It was big energy, big Burning Man stages. That's a whole nother chapter of my life. The Lost at Last chapter. Uh, I had white short hair. I was like this angelic, feminine, divine channeler. And then I had these two dudes on either side, and they would fight a lot. Like their egos would fight, and that was too loud, and turn that down. And I was in the middle, and I can say I really hadn't fully claimed my power yet, because I was in the middle of these two men that were, I don't know, I don't want to say anything, but they were also uh, maybe working on finding their power too and their empowerment. Uh, but I feel like it dampened me a lot. Like it distracted my feminine power and made me feel lesser than, like, oh, I'm just this singer here. I got to watch that. And I have watched that over the years. And uh, so just fully coming into that, um, yeah, that empowerment as a singer, you know.
Yeah. I really like that idea of like as we're thinking about how we as women are approaching this sometimes patriarchal male dominated world or can be, how we kind of connect to our power and how it manifests in the world in all these different ways and through the lens of the music industry, that it's got both sides. You've got this lot of women sort of empowering women and claiming their power, but also sort of tried to redefine an industry that maybe hadn't always been that. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like that. I mean, it's kind of a paradox in a way, because you look at someone like Aretha Franklin, or you look at these super powerful singers, powerful women singers, um, and how they navigated in the time that they were coming out in the 60s, 50s, 60s. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they have so many stories about how they were manipulated by, the men and the people in charge of the record companies. I mean, it's the same story, the exploitation happening to the artists and especially women, because that's just the model that we've been going on for so long, you know. But that's definitely changing.
Um, I loved everything that you talked about from the beginning of our questions, because you talked about your feminine aspect being in your chart, in your Western chart, and also you talked about trying to discover your femininity through the two men, that in the band. So that was like probably felt like a big dichotomy for you, but having it and at the same time trying to hold it and to discover it at the same time, because I'm sure you were really young when you were in that band. So it was a hard balance. But how do you feel now about your divine feminine, and do you remember like a time that it clicked in you and said, "Oh, this is my divine feminine. I'm ready with it. I can just go for it," you know?
Yeah, well, that comes and goes, that feeling that you're talking about. Because I can feel
Wonderful.
really strong about what I'm doing, and then I get a little bamboozled for some reason or other because my emotions or my sensitivity or my programming or, I have it's like an Achilles heel, I guess you would say. And I felt empowered at many times, but I do have to say, I think that, I was in a relationship for 10 years with a man who was 20 years younger than me. As I was referring to earlier, that sometimes I just do these crazy mystical, these dives that don't make much sense. My friends were like, "Oh no," like 20 years younger, you know, and he's handsome and we're doing music together. It's like, and that relationship ended 4 years ago. So I think I look at that and that put me through a lot of stuff because it was right through menopause. It was right through so many things. Both of my parents, my father died, passed away during that time, and my hair is falling out. And just it was really challenging. My mom came down with dementia. I got in a car accident. It just so I went through a really hard time. Some in Vedic astrology, they call it the sadhusati, or something. It's when the Saturn crosses your natal moon. And it can be
Exactly.
really challenging in people's lives, no matter what age you are. It comes at any time. It just depends. So that hit me right at like menopause and during all of these other things. So I had a pretty hard time. So honestly, I didn't feel very empowered a lot during that time. And that relationship was a relationship where there was a real power struggle. There was a real power dynamic because he's a young man on the rise, and I'm a woman integrating my whole life and all the lessons and even learning more lessons, like really powerful, intense lessons. And so we are in very different um, cycles of life, different, just whole different experience of life. So that was kind of for me the last, well, maybe not the last one, but one of the biggest catalysts in my life. That was I kind of look at it like, well, that's it. That was the final one. That was the one that just catapulted me into my full power. Finally, at the age of 55, I'm like, I am free, and I got it. I got it now. I got the lesson, you know. Yeah, like my mission, myself, I'm listening to my dharma and what my work is and how important my work is and my message is. And I'm not gonna, like, dampen it, I'm not gonna, dilute it. I have to stand fully in my, dharma, my dharmic work, and really take it seriously, that responsibility. So
And
that's what's been happening for me.
it's amazing. That's a big growth because, and Sati, I know I'm going through it. I'm in the end of it. So trust me, I know how it feels. It's not an easy one. And, I feel you in my heart about it. And, um, I just want to say, it comes to the point that we all have to have those experiences, with the sati or, just relationships and everything like that. So, what would you say, because you do have two young women in your life, your two incredible daughters, what would you say the advice will be now that you kind of settled and you discovered you and you feel whole finally, in a sense, like, because we always are whole, we're never missing parts of it. We're just rediscovering them. What would you
Mhm.
say to your daughters or girls in that age, or even older women? It doesn't have to be just young women.
Oh, well, I think it's, the words self-love and trust in your own intuition, trust in your power, and don't and learn how to watch yourself where you give your power away. And because I think that's what's all part of this great movement of the feminine consciousness and the women arising. It's learning how to listen to our deeper guidance and our deeper intuition, because we've been so conditioned and programmed to check in with those around us, to check in with our boyfriend or husband, to check in with our parents, or like, is it okay if I do this, or is it okay, or and to a degree, some of that is fine, because we do work for harmony. We want to create harmony and be harmonious with our environment and our relationships. So of course, it's a good to check in. That's a good quality. But we also have to learn how to trust more in our own intuition and learn to discern, like, what is our programming, and how are we trying to please, because that's such a feminine thing. It's been programmed so deeply, is trying to please people. And that's also goes for men too. I mean, it's just kind of a human thing, but definitely a little bit more with women. We've had that really drilled into us, oh, we must please people. We must serve and be pleased and be offer pleasure and be pleasant and create more pleasure, and so um I also like to reference, I've been talking a lot about this. I'm going to just bring this up right now. So there's the goddess Saraswati, because I love to teach about the goddesses, the Vedic goddesses, especially because there's so much. They're so expanded, and there's just so much to meditate on them about their qualities. Yeah, they do a lot. They're in charge of a lot. So, the goddess Saraswati, she is very well known as, being graceful, and she creates harmony. She's one of those very light goddesses that she brings harmony, she brings knowledge, she brings spiritual awareness and knowledge and great teachings of wisdom and beauty and music and refinement in all ways and everything, dress, how we sing, how we speak. Um, but she has this alter ego who is one of the Mahavidyas, right? So she has this alter ego, Saraswati, who's called Matangi.
Exactly.
And yeah. And so I've also been talking to women a lot about Matangi because Matangi is this other side of Saraswati that kind of throws all that to the wind and just channels pure expression and pure communicative energy. And it can look really scary sometimes. It's not like Kali, but just in her unabashed expression. So she could be singing like crazy, cackling or laughing, cackling, or her hair can look really wild, or she can be out playing the drums or dancing wild. And so it's like that goddess, that is completely uninhibited and full expression and beyond our concept of what might be beautiful or refined or graceful. So I just love bringing her up and talking about her. And that would also be something that I want to encourage women of all ages to not forget about her and let her out now and then, that wild goddess. There's all these movements, the wild women movement, the wilding retreats for
Yeah.
women too. So it's along those lines. It's like, no, you need to also remember, we need to remember to really express, and painting or whatever it is, dressing wild, painting wild, singing wild.
That's a beautiful part of ourselves that sometimes is very difficult for women to bring out because they all want to be proper or correct because of what the world is about. But I love that wild expression. I'm for it. I'm for Mandagi. I'm for the wild women's movement. I'm in it. I love it. But also, do you think that when you get into that expression, can you feel like you can cultivate it within yourself and just have that wildness actually be like a form of your spirituality? Because also the divine feminine in all forms is part of us and it's our spiritual self. So how do you feel like you can cultivate that in your personal and in professional life? I mean, to me, your professional life and your personal life is one same. I don't see you separate, from your work or from who you are. I see you as one. So how would you cultivate that? What would you do? What do you do like to allow that to happen, to take place?
Wow, I love that idea that you just said. I love that. Like we're non-different from our professional life and our personal life. I mean, that is just epic right there. Thanks for saying that. Because I have often felt there is a difference. I mean, there is in a way, it's like as you're cultivating your professional image or your branding, you have to contemplate how you want to present yourself. But at the same time, as we're evolving, we're learning how to also integrate our real authentic self into our work. And I'm all about that too, you know. Um and we're always changing. Um I'm learning how to do that more. I'm learning how to not be shy or, hold back. I'm I'm learning how to speak my mind more and say what I feel and not think too much about it. Like, oh, probably shouldn't say that. Or I don't know what they're going to think of me if I say that. Or, like I'm really letting that go. just all of it, just life, like living really passionately, but also with a sense of grace and harmony. And I think that finding that balance is what I love to do. Finding the balance of really being expressive and really authentic and eating what I want to eat, saying what I want to say, dressing how I want to dress, but at the same time, you know, wanting to create a sense of harmony and beauty and offer that into the world. We all are channels, especially as women, of this feminine beauty and grace. And it's very special and it's multifaceted and it's really infinite in our expressions.
I love the answer and how you cultivate your divine feminine. Yeah.
I think, especially in the last 4 years since I've been single, it made a big difference because when I was in the relationship, I was always doing things and acting and choosing things in reference to the relationship. So there's a big difference. I was not my full self in the relationship and I was not empowered in the relationship. I just will say that. I was catering to the relationship out of whatever, wanting joy, running a relationship, out of fear of losing it, you know. So now I cultivate my divine feminine by um, listening to what I want to do every day. And in a sense, since that relationship ended, I can tell you that because we used to do this very intense yoga sadhana, and he was very disciplined with that. And I always felt like I wasn't disciplined. I always felt like, oh, he's such a better yogi than me, or, those things. And so I really let myself feel like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to sleep in until 10 in the morning if I want. I'm going to lay in bed. I'm going to make my bed so comfortable that I'm just going to be on a cloud and, of comfort. um, I'm going to take more time for myself to just feel what I feel. I'm not going to make myself do these very structured things like you have to do this and you have to do this meditation this way. And if you don't do it this way, I have this pressure of like, because I am a yoga teacher and um, my body's going through changes. I have a big fibroid that I'm dealing with right now, and I've had to modify my practice quite a bit. And I think just letting that go is also part of cultivating my feminine. It's okay if I don't feel like meditating one morning, And I think that's been a kind of my biggest struggle, just listening to my body as it's changing and what it needs. Anyway, it's more like really just a lot of self-care and being more and more okay with that, you know.
Thank you. That's pretty amazing.
You know.
I love the idea of like listening to yourself and like, what do I want to do? And giving yourself permission to just do what you want to do. I feel like that is a really empowering thing. A lot of the time we carry around a lot of shoulds on our shoulder, right? Like, oh, we should be doing this, or we should be doing that, or trying to fulfill expectations or get into that people pleasing mode. And to sort of not let that be the focus, but to really listen to ourselves, honor ourselves, carve our own path, I think is a really important component of that. I really love how you've shared so much of your journey to empowerment and all the different ways and shapes that that took and the courage that you've had along the way to keep finding that in yourself and cultivating it and claiming it. I think as women, we all struggle with those same things. And to just hear the ups and downs a lot of the time is really empowering because I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I've solved this, I should be okay. But really, it's just a step on the journey. You've really shared your journey in a way that we see that, and where it has come to in this sort of Saturn return of your life, I guess, is this sense of self that has really been strengthened through this process. So we thank you so much for being our guest today. And I'd love for you to share, like, how can people find your music, get in touch with you, go on some of these retreats? What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Um, so the best way would be through my website, and that's jayalakshmimusic.com. And you can message me through there. You can join my email list. And yeah, I have my retreats on there. Right now I'm doing 4 retreats a year. And this one I'm doing in Greece is with my friend Kate and her partner Dimitris. This is my 3rd one in Greece. So this year, I'm definitely gonna connect with you. We've been creating this incredible retreat there, just like we're going to the Artemis Temple on Ikaria, we're going to the Dionysus Temple, where she's very artistic in how she integrates the ancient energy and the ancient, uh, ways of life on the islands with the modern and with yoga, with movement, with voice, with poetry, it's and food. Yeah, it's very beautiful how she orchestrates and puts together the retreat. And then I'm leading a retreat in Maui. So I've been doing that. I've been leading retreats in Hawaii for since 2014, I think. I used to live there, but I have one in February, and that's pretty much just connect on with the island and do music every night, and we go out with the whales as much as possible and go swimming and snorkeling, and yeah, just it's aloha. It's aloha vibe. It's really very sweet. And then, I do the goddess retreat in Sedona, which this year is gonna be my 8th retreat there, which is amazing. It's that the 8th one already. And that is empower your voice, and through mantra and yoga, basically, and the teachings of the goddesses, the Vedic goddesses. And yeah, so that's in May. And then I just did the Brighton Bush retreat, Brighton Bush Hot Springs. It's in Oregon. It's a very beautiful hot springs. And I did that for 4 days. I just finished that one, and that's another empower your voice through mantra and yoga. So that's really my focus a lot these days is the retreats and getting people together for 5, 6 days because I love that intimacy. I love the bonding. I love the way we can relate and connect in the retreat setting. To me, that's so powerful and so healing for people. And so that's really what I love doing. And I'm doing some concerts. Yeah. So everything's on my website, all my events. And I'm also working on recordings. That's always in the works. And I just came out with an album called Goddess Japa, and it's on Spotify. Yeah. So I just finished that, and I did that album. So it's 8 Shakti mantras that are repeated 108 times. So it's essentially the mala. Uh, it's for people, for anybody really, but I did it. It's kind of a little bit of a lazy person's way to do japa. You can put it on and know that you chanted to the goddess Tara 108 times. You said her mantra, and you can do that also with Kali and Durga and Saraswati. And you can also just put it on and leave it on in your room or your space or a yoga studio and just let the mantras just go and go. And I did that because I know more than ever, our planet needs that, like, needs these mantras and that sound frequency of the divine feminine, especially, like, just going 24/7 everywhere as much as possible.
I'm very excited to check out your album. I encourage everybody to do so and hear the beautiful things that she has to offer. And You've picked 4 of the most beautiful places to go and do these wonderful retreats. I've been to 3 of the 4. I live in Sedona, I've been to Brighton Bush, I've been to Greece. I've never been to Hawaii, but I've heard only great things. I know you and Zeffie have been there quite a bit. But I really encourage everybody to go and connect with Lakshmi and experience this energy because it's extremely powerful and uplifting. So thank you so much for being our guest today. We really appreciate it.
So special, and I loved your questions. And thank you so much for all the great work you're doing with this amazing project. And yeah, I hope to see you along the path somewhere. Maybe in Sedona, I will see you. Blessings to all of your listeners and yeah, all the goddesses out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Woman Arising, where we celebrate the resilience, wisdom, and power of women on the rise. Remember, when women rise, we all rise. If you're ready to embark on your journey of empowerment, sign up for our mailing list at womenarising.com and join our community of strong, inspiring women. To connect with Zeffie Devi and ignite your inner fire, visit zeffiedevi.com and sign up to get your free tantric meditation. Let Zeffie illuminate your path, helping you discover the magic and power that reside within you. To connect with Kathy Hartenstein and claim your spectacularness, visit createmorebliss.com and sign up for a free 30-minute consult call where she can help you break through your emotional blocks to success. Let Kathy be your guide on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Thank you for being a part of the Woman Arising community. Together, let's continue to uplift, inspire, and empower women everywhere. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep embracing the divine feminine power that resides within you.
You are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer.